Welcome to the Shed and Shine podcast. I am Gino Wickman. This is where Rob Dube and I help driven entrepreneurs shed their shit, free their true selves, unlock true entrepreneurial freedom, and shine. We truly appreciate you taking the time to spend with us, and we hope to make a huge impact on you.
Today, my guest is Dr. Doug Brackman. After achieving a dual PhD in 2002 in both industrial and organizational psychology and clinical psychology, Dr. Doug struck out to research the components of powerful thought and action, culminating in a very successful practice of highly driven leaders. Dr. Doug has used an integrated approach of meditation, biohacking, and applied real-world coaching to help thousands of people. He has been naturally drawn to the highly driven, often ADD and ADHD spectrum, CEOs, business owners, and entrepreneurs, and for the last 10 years has worked exclusively with these amazing clients. Dr. Doug is a 20-plus year meditation practitioner and a continuous student of the rapid advances in science, explaining the benefits of specific types of meditation. He describes himself as a functional MRI geek and student of all spiritual practices and religions. He has authored a book, Driven: Understanding and Harnessing the Genetic Gifts of Entrepreneurs, Navy SEALs, and Professional Athletes, and maybe you. Our conversation is filled with thought-provoking nuggets of wisdom, so please enjoy my chat with Dr. Doug Brackman. Doug, great to see you. Welcome to the Shed and Shine podcast.
It's fantastic to be here, Rob. It's good to see you. You look good.
Thank you. I've been very much looking forward to talking to you. It's been a while.
It has been.
We were together in Arizona, but you might not remember. We didn't have much time to connect. But this is a very impactful day because you are our first official guest on the Shed and Shine podcast.
I am honored. I'm honored.
Yes, I am too.
I mean, it's the imposter syndrome and all my trying to stay invisible for most of my life. It seems that that is coming to an end.
First of all, talk a little bit about that. What this imposter syndrome, staying invisible, where did that come from for you?
I have 2 PhDs. That's ridiculous. I mean, that is stupid. Trying to get rid of this feeling that I'm not enough. That that people are going to find out about really my inner world of feeling like I'm not enough, and it used to be a plague for me, and now when I'm not feeling it, I'm not pushing myself hard enough. And so it's something that it's a measure of actually me pushing the envelope on my comfort zone. And so it is a good thing. And really, it's the core of my content is all about not being your feelings, not identifying and having your identity be your feelings. And because we only have we don't have an executive function in our brain. Most of the people listening to this, we don't have, if you know the monkey elephant metaphor, and all my new research, and I'm coming out with a whole bunch of new research here in the next couple of months, but it's most people on this planet have only one monkey. They only have one rider up on top of this elephant. And I can't imagine what that would be like. I got a circus going on in my head of all of them wrestling for control. And so drivens, we tend to, rather than using the single rider as the core of our identity, which is most of the world. That's why when we go into a psychologist's office, we look crazy because we have this competing narrative, bouncing from narrative to narrative in our head, where most of the world is living by a single narrative. We step back and look at, how can they believe, that narrative they're living by? And, we don't have that luxury. So until you get into my content or really understand what I teach, it is, we by default use this feeling of not enough or this emotional experience of just impending doom, like there's really something wrong with me, as the core of our identity.
Yeah. So when you refer to we, you're referring to the driven people of this world, which are all of you out there listening.
Yeah. And it is what gets people in my office. It's also why 2/3 of us are completely whacked out in our addictions. And whether it's, anything to make this feeling of something missing or wrong with me go away. And, that's, I got the list of hobbies and I got the list of drugs and I got the list of trying to escape this emotional truth that I thought was true about me. And so it has
Mhm.
been the last, I didn't, 7 years ago, it's been 10 years now. When I walked into my first mastermind, I had no idea this world existed. I had no idea there was, hordes of driven people hiding in mastermind, experiencing reality in a completely different way than me. And so it was like, welcome home. And so now that I'm, the reluctant Messiah coming out of the closet, it's still uncomfortable, but it's not me.
Where did this come from for you? Yeah, I remember reading somewhere, maybe talking to you at some point, where you said at 19 you realized you had to help yourself to help others or something like that.
I was actually sleeping in the back of a car at 17 and living in a van. And it was early 80s, mid 80s. And so I had embraced the punk rock movement to the fullest. Believe it or not, I had a mohawk and piercings, and I mean, I was full blown, anarchist. Um, but that awareness, and it was some big, heavy set woman carrying a trash bag, 6:30 in the morning, banging on my back window, saying, "You can't sleep here." And it was this wake up moment of, what am I doing? Like, what the hell happened? And so it's that moment, those moments of really, opportunity, that, to self-reflect, to look at myself in a different way. And it obviously, 2 PhDs later, it gave me the opportunity to really see myself from a different perspective. And that different perspective is this thing that I'm really excited about you and Gino doing, because it gives people the opportunity to change. So my metaphor, the monkey, the elephant, and the soul, mind, body, soul, to really step into the soul for the first time and look at myself. And ever since then, it's trying to put the damn soul in the driver's seat rather than that 13 monkeys wrestling for control. Um, and that is the next book I've got coming out, which is really a graduate level course for a lot of the guys I've been working with.
Mm.
Meditation practices and the breath work practices and the ice plunges and everything that we do to really get this, to take massive advantage of what we are as drivens. And being on the other side, it's wonderful, but catching them where you guys are catching them is just God's work. I mean, it is fantastic.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So when you refer to the monkey, you're referring to the mind.
Yeah, so it's the metaphor is 2,500 years old. And its classic metaphor is a rider and a horse. And so you have this neocortex up on top of this elephant or this horse, and they seem to have different agendas. And it is, why January sucks at the gym, because the horse is very much just wants the familiar world. But the rider up on top, has this ability to imagine six-pack abs. And so the January to about January 21st, you see the gym packed. And then it starts to taper where the elephant or this other operating system starts to take control. And that metaphor is really the gateway for everything we do. Because once you are able to step out of it and see that, yeah, the elephant wants to sit its ass on the couch, and then I've got this gorilla, or in my case, or most of the driven cases, I got, two cheerleaders, I got a lazy one, I got a gorilla, and I got another guy who thinks he's a Navy SEAL. Get the hell off the couch. And then, oh, no, maybe not. You need to hear all that crap. But who's the one watching it? And that is that shift of identity that is the foundational work for everything we do as a psychologist. It's called the observing ego. It's what Freud called it, and Carl Jung, which I follow much more closely than Freud, is it's the unconscious becoming conscious, expanding consciousness and all the hippie stuff. And you guys can pretty tell I'm not a hippie, but man, I have ventured into that world for the last 25 years, and there's a lot of truth in it.
Mm-hmm. Well, it got a label of hippie, but I don't know these days if it really is thought of in that way. I don't know about you, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. I feel, and maybe it's our bubble, Doug, but I feel people are opening their minds to.
By chance, and so by God's providence, I've had many lucky experiences in this world, and how everything, all of my content comes together. One of the luckiest things in the world. My doctoral dissertation chair, a guy named Jim Spira, his roommate at Berkeley in the late 70s, early 80s is a guy named Peter Levine. And so when I first started, this was 91 when I started my doctoral work, was deep into my deep into my dissertation in the mid 90s, late 90s, and met up with Peter Levine and started the really understanding about how to change the elephant and trauma healing, and it was real hippie back then. I mean, this was coming out of Berkeley, and I mean, it was like patchouli oil and like what is this stuff? And the biology and the science behind it is what I just jumped on. And we can track now actual genetic physiological changes from trauma healing. And so things that used to, you'd resist, like going to the gym, you can actually see how that's trauma. And, I could have called Drivens, we are a trauma-based personality type. We are designed to live in a trauma-filled world. And the transgenerational, impact of trauma on our genetics is really what Driven is. And so you see these adaptations the neocortex in the brain and the body make to adjust to and adapt to living in really horrific environments. I mean, startups that is horrible world. I mean, it's absolute hell.
It's true.
Absolute hell. Elon Musk, it's chewing on glass while staring into the abyss of hell. But the thing that I've really focused on in the last few years, and I got, my latest work is really, yes, we are designed to live in a world full of trauma, but we're also designed to heal from all that trauma incredibly fast. And, the guys that I've been working with for 8-10 years that have gone down that trauma healing path, the freedom that we have to not operate in fear. And I used to hear it a lot more, but now it's less. Well, if I give up my fear, I won't be successful. And you couldn't be anything further from the truth. You give up your fear and you're not living in this fear-based, elephant anymore. The mental clarity, and you can see problems, and then your intuition gets launched and you see around corners, and the truly healed Drivens is what is just lighting my candle now. I mean, it is just awesome.
Can you talk about trauma? Because I work with many of our clients, and many are very clear they have had experienced some sort of trauma, but there are some percentage that say, I don't even, I'm looking for trauma. I just don't think I've had it,
Well,
so.
Trauma, the worst thing ever to happen to you is the worst thing ever to happen to you. So trauma is in the eye of the beholder. And it is, by definition, it is something that happens to you that changes your physiology. You touch a hot stove. Every cell in that nerve pathway remembers that experience, hits the spine. The muscles contract away from it. And it is a reflexive system. This is a hardware system recording things that could kill us, or things that, make us in the most common fear of all human beings is abandonment. We were born a ball of meat, literally. Saber-tooth tiger come and eat us for lunch. And so we are completely dependent on others to keep us safe. And so attachment is what we are and what we are as a species. You don't get held as a baby, you die. And, being an entrepreneur is one of the loneliest things in the world. And I work best alone. It's like, well, maybe true, but you're also a freaking asshole and no one wants to work with you. And so that capacity to actually take trauma out of this, well, I was never, dad never hit me, how would I have trauma? And we all have trauma. And you can pinprick babies in Israel only looking at their genetics and their blood type and their, cortisol profiles. Babies, 2 weeks old, 2 months old, and predict with 99% reliability whose great grandparents were in the Holocaust. And so we are wired for a world that we're going to go into. And most of this existence on this planet for 250,000 years, however long humans have been here, we're bipeds. We walked. So if mom was crazy, we're good chance we'd live with mom most of our life. And now it's, just don't answer the phone. And so that residual trauma for generations is in us. And, it's there. So to say I don't have trauma is it's not an understanding of what trauma is. I don't have acute trauma. There's never been a car accident, plane wreck, or whatever. Okay. But, attachment, we all have attachment issues. Going back to Julie Suggs in first grade, girl I kissed in first grade, in huge drama. Mrs. Federsell, teacher, called me out on it, wound up getting a migraine, throwing up, and having to go home. I mean, it was a real deal. And to this day, I can't date brunettes. So it's like, what is that? Well, I just don't like them. Well, that's my reactions in my body telling me, nah, not safe.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going back to really the foundations of everything I teach. It's very simple. That is what that is what my body is telling me is the truth. And feelings are not facts. It react as if it's a snake. And if you believe those feelings and you see those feelings, we are living in a constant state of confirmation bias. We see what we feel. So if I'm feeling she's a snake and I'm looking, I will see a snake. And, the narcissistic fantasy of all my entrepreneurs, and I got the greatest idea and it can't fail. It's like, yeah, I mean, I don't, all you see is sticks. And so it is that ability to reality test your central nervous system, but that only comes from this third, from your soul level of being able to have insight, calling bullshit on your central nervous system. And
so let me ask you this, because I want to come to the third piece to this, but we talk about mind. Talk about how the body shows up and how people are oftentimes not really paying attention to the messages that our bodies are sending us.
Well, that is, the client base that you guys are going after, and I love it. Well, let me back up from there. You go to a second grade class, first grade, second grade, third grade, you see it the most. Really, second grade is where you see it, where you see a room full of kids studying spelling words. What are they all doing? They all got their head completely cocked sideways on the desk. Why? Because they're trying to disconnect themselves from their body. And it is this, because my body wants to go play. My body wants to go to have fun. My body, the elephant, wants to go do something other than, learn how to be an assembly line worker. And so we have to disconnect our heads from our body. And, the old Joseph Campbell metaphor is that, we all get kicked out of the Garden of Eden, meaning that, we're born into paradise and all we want to do is play and we don't have any worries. And then eventually we eat from the tree of knowledge and the monkey mind kicks in and good boys and good girls get 100% on their spelling. And so I'm going to work hard to do this so I know up here what good from evil is, and I don't have to listen to my body. My body's told me really loudly that, memorizing spelling words was stupid and a waste of time. And so that disconnection, and then it's always the joke, if you don't listen to your body, you will. And eventually, really 41, 42, after doing 11 years of triathlon, my body said to me, you're done. You go out for a run, you get about, a mile into it, you're like, I'm done. And so the reconnection process with the body, and it is what meditation and it's the key to it, because you will listen. Everybody eventually goes to the dentist. Everybody eventually goes to the doctor. And it's much better if you learn to listen before you need to.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but it's normal. And, I don't come across it as much anymore, but I had one guy, Scotty, always, so where do you feel that in your body? He'd look at you like cross-eyed and go, my elbow? I don't even know what the hell you're talking about. What do you mean my body? It's just like, so take a big breath in, hold it, and then go real slow. What do you notice? I think you're stupid is what I noticed. And it's just pure thinking. And, it's just what normal is for a lot of people. And, you stub your toe and it's ow. And then 2 minutes later, it's gone. And so the signals from the body, most people are deadened to them and just tuned out from it. It's called, so we have perception, looking out, and then big word in trauma healing is interio or interioception. And this nerve that runs, the vagal nerve runs down the back and then comes into our stomach, and it's an efferent nerve, meaning that's a sensory nerve and your gut instincts. But if I'm unaware and I'm scanning the bar and I immediately only looking for blondes, because my gut instinct is don't do that, I am blind to what my body is steering me towards. And so how do I wake up to that is actually really being able to feel the pings to the radar, feel the pings in my body. And that takes practice. And, curiosity, 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 curiosity.
Do certain areas of the body indicate certain feelings that you're having?
Oh, we only have 3 basic places to feel. And so think of it, I don't know, do you like ribeyes? Think of the best looking ribeye in the world. And you're just about to take a bite. And as you feel that warmy, gushy in your tummy, you go to take a bite and you see maggots in it. And so the expansion in the stomach is this feeling of, warm fuzzies or whatever you want to say. It's safety and security and fullness. And then disgust is the other. And then think of a Labrador puppy. Oh, cutest little Labrador puppy gets hit by a car. And that opening and the closing of the fascia of the heart, where all the oxytocin receptors are. And so we have, disgust and warm fuzzies, and then we have warm kind of desire to connect, desire to, and then abandonment. And then fight and flight is the other, that's it. And so we have this gas pedal of sympathetic arousal, and fight is you feel it in the shoulders and you want to face, and then flight is you drop your shoulders and you feel it in your hips and you want to run. And so I, going back, well, Kristen Brown, different girl in 6th grade, she broke up with me because I had oil pockets in my nose. She said, you have all these oil pockets. And so I think about that, and what does that make me feel is I have this little bit of disgust and a little bit of heart hurt and then desire to run, and we call that abandonment. And so, the same, Stephanie Bright, another girl, she cheated on me. And that, seeing her kissing another guy made me feel disgust and made me feel heart hurt and then made me want to beat the shit out of somebody. Call that jealousy. And so emotional intelligence is really the core of why meditation and everything we teach from this observer standpoint is so critical. But the grounding principle of emotional intelligence is knowing your feelings are not facts. Of knowing that your feelings are physiological reactions you're having in your body. They're not true. They're not based in reality, and they're all valid. Everything, all the, I see, brown-haired girl and I feel this disgust and I feel threat. That's valid, but it's just not. It's based on some history of mine that's coming through. That then really being able to feel emotion one at a time is the other core thing of emotional intelligence. Feel the disgust and feel the heart hurt, and they're so reflexive and fast. And the body is just sensation. Then it comes up here and we give it labels and meaning and everything else. And so if we can catch it below the nose, it gives us an opportunity to reality test them.
When you notice feelings in your body, what do you do with that?
Notice even more. There are real snakes in this world. And so it's just, just feel it and let it go. No, there's a reason these things are coming up. And it is not good nor bad. And it's that opportunity, though, to really reality test all of them. In the meditation and the trauma healing world, systematic desensitization, the more you're exposed to something and the more you feel it with an alternative reality happening at the same time, you automatically start to reprogram this thing. And that, things that used to bother me don't bother me anymore. And that, my daughter and I both, my eldest daughter, there's a genetic twist that the sound of someone chewing makes me literally want to vomit. It makes me freak out. And how long has it been now? 24 years ago, 23 years ago now. First meditation retreat where you got 20 people sitting around in a room eating in silence. One of the most horrific, freaking feelings I've ever had. But my body is lying to me. I'm not in danger, and that person is more disgusting than that. And I can start to become curious with it and not run from nor, scream at the people around me. And that concept of bandwidth, and a sensation turning into an emotion has never gotten me in trouble once, ever. You take the E off and turn it into motion. That's when the trouble starts. And so the capacity to actually be non-reactive, but full of sensation. And so I can, boundaries, it's the other thing, Peter Levine, brilliant. Boundaries are internal. And meaning that, my daughter's pterodactyl scream is one of the examples. My daughter's got a pterodactyl scream. 17, she still got it. It's amazing. But when she was little, it would literally make my skin crawl. And I'd want to stop when I react. And if you're going to do that, you need to go to your room, because I couldn't hold the boundary internal. So I had to set external boundaries. But most of us are so, we're just blind, asleep to the sensations in the body. And so once you start this process of becoming curious with it, the floodgates open. And then
to what's really going on underneath the surface.
Yeah.
And then so when you hear the chewing, how do you get to a point where the chewing no longer creates that sensation in your body? In other words, you've let it go, you're free of it.
Yeah, so great question. So trauma healing is all about learning to track and not be trapped in the emotion. And so, I call it the logical container and driven. It's really soul strength, for lack of a better word. The capacity to actually stay in this curious observer, even though my body's telling me to scream or punch somebody, is the capacity to actually become really curious about what in my body is actually reacting this way. And the way the brain works and the neocortex works is the monkeys want to scream up and down, oh my God, you're in danger, you're in danger. And if it goes into thinking land and I start to feed it, then I get into hell loops where the monkeys are jumping up and down and the body's freaking out, because then it turns into a panic attack. But if I can stay curious and then actually notice that the very small sensation in my body is actually right here in my gut, that, the sound of somebody chewing still makes that. But what else is the rest of my body feeling? And I'm not trapped in it. I can take a breath. I can actually relax the rest of my body. And then what happens to it? Oh, it gets bigger. Isn't that wild? Isn't that cool? Maybe I can actually throw up if I do it enough. But it's not a, I'm changing the relationship I have with my central nervous system. Understanding that it's not telling me the truth, first and foremost, core of it. And then second, I'm not trapped in the sensation. It's constantly changing. Nothing is permanent. So I'm able to actually feel these, sense of disgust, and then pause and wait. And I get images of somebody making fun of me in kindergarten and second grade and third grade. It's like, oh my God. And I can feel my heart actually feel hurt with it. They used to make fun of me because of this. And rather than, I'm a big fan of Schwartz and IFS, internal family systems, I can imagine that little second grader, getting made fun of, and give him a hug. And so now when I actually hear somebody chewing, it actually leads to the sense of gratitude. It's like, oh, and so it completely takes apart these reactions that we have. And IFS, any of those kind of models where you're really looking at how the coupling dynamics between heart hurt and disgust, for example, I can uncouple those and see them as two different things. One, this heart hurt collapsing, I can actually do something really different about. I can change this reaction. And then when I get this reaction, this doesn't close my heart and I feel like I'm going to get kicked out. It actually opens and it's like, whoa, I actually it makes me feel warm and fuzzy and loved when people chew.
Yeah.
And so it completely changes how I walk through the world.
Yeah.
Trauma is one of the only things that, had you never had it, you wouldn't be as good as if you recovered it. And so it may set you back. You go down a little bit, but then when you recover, you go way up above baseline where you were before had you never had the trauma.
Mm-hmm.
So once you get to that side of it, I've been doing this for a long time, you start to dig on your trauma. It's like, yeah, bring this up because I know there's good on the other side. There's more freedom from this trapped central nervous system.
Yeah. Is the observer that you keep referencing this third thing?
Yeah. Observer.
So talk about that. How do we cultivate the observer, the awareness?
Personally, for me, the cold plunge has been the best teaching tool I've ever had. Did it this morning. I do it on 124 days or something in a row now. Because the monkey and the elephant want nothing to do with 40-degree water. Nothing. And this observer, though, is the one that knows it's good for me. It's your knower. I know it in my knower, and it's actually a spot in the body, but I know it in my knower. I know there's huge benefit to it. And that capacity to actually get into the cold plunge and then have this, it's almost like an imposter syndrome experience inside, because, you expect to feel like a badass. You expect to feel these things, and you don't feel that way. You feel cold and curious, like, who the hell is this person under this water that is just, and then I pop back up and it's like, wow. And so embodying that observer, I think that's what we're really doing here on this planet is embodying our soul. And that's the other joke I always say. It's really not a joke. If anyone ever tells you they really have that observer thing figured out, run. I promise it's a cult. It is. This is your soul, and you're leading, reaching the different layers and whatever it is. They're just trying to get you to the next course, but it is. How do you know you're in your observer? I get that question all the time. It's the one waiting for the next thought. And, Carl Jung was really probably one of the first to really conceptualize it. It is this just awareness, pure, raw awareness without judgment. It's the part of us that is made in the image of God. And, there's 8 billion souls on this planet and one. So this collective, whole spirit or Holy Spirit, this thing that is that we can tap into is through that. But most of all the single monkey people don't even know what the hell I'm talking about. But the monkey, multi-monkey people, all the drivens out there, we're so worried about battling our feelings and trying to make us feel safe that we don't have this real opportunity to take advantage of what it means to be driven.
Say again, once you kind of conceptualize all this and you say, okay, I get this. I think this is useful. Now, back to your point about your tendency to want to be in fear. How am I going to be more successful as an entrepreneur now?
So that's the book I have coming out after, I got a couple of them coming out here in a series, but this driven identity mastery. I sell clarity, confidence, and power. Clarity is what's going to make you a lot more money. And clarity meaning that you're not fighting your own inner demons and dragons, trying to make something feel good enough. Good enough is not a feeling. Good enough is based on KPIs and actual outcomes. And once you can break that, it's like, oh, wait a second. And I think we opened with this, you have that, what am I doing? Not shame-based, what am I doing? But really a curiosity, like, whoa, what am I doing? And you can start to use our multi-thinking brain to really organize an opportunity and then split test it and actually look at reality with it. And drivens, we hate wasting time more than anyone else on this planet, and we are better at wasting time than anyone else on this planet. And so the clarity that comes from a stable central nervous system and a stable, observer, where the observer can actually see, what you're missing because you're not feeling it. And, the capacity to get in a cold plunge, even if you don't feel like it. The capacity to, no different than, returning an email, no different than, sitting down and really with the CFO and figuring out, where are we making money? Where are we losing money? Finding out that you want to know that your idea didn't work and it sucked fast. And the faster you can do that, even though it doesn't feel good, and just because you want to be right, you're going to miss so much because of that need to change your feelings. And so
Yeah.
once you get out of the fear, and you start to really see the benefits of this, the results of actually some meditation, and you start to get confidence in the practices. Like if I take a breath, orient, calm my central nervous system, look at the checking account again, see what's really going on, you're going to see things that you didn't before. But it's not self-confidence. It's confidence that I know how to actually get out of my emotional world. And then efficacy, that I have the ability to actually change the way I'm interacting in this world. And that becomes this motivation to really keep the practices going. And once you get over that fear hump, and it's relatively quick for most guys, because we're wired for an impending doomy feel, fear-based world. And as I teach, it's a total mind, makes your head explode really quick, that we're all trying to make safety and feel safe in the world. Well, where is safety? Right here, right now. And right now, in this present moment, you are completely safe. Then, but I don't. You practice that a little bit more, and then it really quickly, you start to see the benefits. I mean weeks. It's not a couple of weeks of meditation of these practices, and then thank God there's something called false enlightenment. Buddha talked about it 2,500 years ago. AA, it's the pink cloud, and you get this new tool of meditation, and it's like, wow, I can do anything, and oh my God, everything's going to be somewhere around 60, 90 days. It's like, oh, wait a second, this is hard. The ego structure and everything, it starts to get sneaky again, and your work may be better, but all of a sudden your relationship with your wife is blowing up. What the hell? And so it's going to leak out. And so it's just practice.
I can relate to what you're saying about meditation. I've been meditating for 20 years and I have a daily practice, and I go on 2 silent retreats every single year, and I still feel like a beginner. So if someone's listening, they might say, why on earth would I do that?
So
He's been doing it for that long. Doug, how do you teach this?
I say it in my meditation course, first week, and I've been meditating same 20 plus years, and just in an earnest practice for 15. And I mean, I probably missed 10 days of meditation in 15 years. Um, it's just part of my morning routine. I never know nor feel that I'm doing it right, ever. That, no two breaths are the same. Real challenge when you take a really good breath and you really drop in, and then you try to match that breath again and again. But it goes to the core of what this whole thing is about. What got us kicked out of the Garden of Eden was the belief. It's original sin. It's the belief I know good from evil. No, you don't. No one does. You truly don't. Because why? Because you can't see it all. And so true humility is that capacity to sit in not knowing. And that, when I can sit still in not knowing and know I'm still safe. That's why this becomes a very spiritual thing very quickly. And, spirit, try to keep it out of the hippy dippy, but spirit is simply that which we can't see. And gravity is one of the greatest, I can't see gravity, but you can see the effect of gravity. And, I know gravity's real. I know it exists. And God is gravity. Yeah, it's a bending of the space-time continuum. So you well, figure that out. And so that capacity to have a relationship with gravity in the present moment. You can't see presence. You can experience it. And so that capacity to actually have those experiences and feel the result, and never really know if you're doing it right. Getting rid of the problem, increasing the capacity for sitting in faith. That's what we're really talking about. Perfect faith only exists in the present. And that moment you come out of the present, you start to, yay, and then being able to come back to that. And so as a highly driven person that has extreme perfectionism in many of anything I've ever accomplished. I mean, meditation is something that, thank God, it's a never-ending pole. You can keep climbing it forever. And the moment you think you're making progress, it is you're wasting time on the cushion, as Shinra Suzuki says.
You write in your book, Driven, about a retreat that you do where you teach shooting as a way to meditate.
Yeah, talking about getting drug out of my imposter syndrome closet. Yeah, Randy and I, a buddy of mine who was teaching me Bujinkan, he was a martial arts teacher of mine, Navy SEAL, retired Navy SEAL. And I, trying to rebrand myself away from being a psychologist into more cool stuff. And so I, let's partner up with the Navy SEAL, and work with entrepreneurs. And the gun is the best teaching tool I've ever had for learning discernment between the neocortex and the monkeys and the elephant and the observer. And, very simply, the simplest way to explain it, to get it really quickly, is there is no recoil in the present moment. And so if you're anticipating the recoil when you're behind a gun and you feel your body tense, you inhibit, you start to tense up, called the flinch, you're not being present. And the observer can feel that letting go and, disinhibition. It's a big thing in the body where you're really just letting the body go, but you're still in the body. And then you can feel just the tip of the trigger, and you very gently, and then you feel just these micro moments of not present. Neuropeptide Y and some of the gifts we have about hyper focus, to where the experience. And in Zen, they talk about, where the identity or the sense of self falls away. And it's the lowercase self, where your ego falls away. It's an ego death moment. In Vedic Christianity, early Christianity, it's three become one, where the knower, the Father and the Son, and this mystery ghost thing, and that experience of actually knowing exactly where the bullet's going to hit. And I shoot crazy guns. I mean, because they're deductible, I built some crazy guns. I'm not kidding. 375 Chi-Tech, if there's any shooters out there. It's a 2-mile gun. It can literally put on target at 2 miles. It'll go through an engine block at a mile. It'll kill a Hummer at a mile. It shoots a very big bullet, very, very fast. And that capacity to feel the bullet go down the barrel and feel the path of the bullet before it, your intuition of actually being able to predict the future. And it's mystical, it's magical. And Randy and I based it on this practice. Kodo is Zen archery, where these guys are shooting, 10-inch little tiny pie plates in the dark at 33 yards. I mean, they're like, with a candle in the room, but they're feeling the shot. And most entrepreneurs know that experience, when you're it's flow. It's, flow is where you're in that ultimate experience of really, most people cry behind the gun, which is very surprising, because it is such a profound experience of really touching your true potential as a driven. And I've had a lot of single monkey people go through the course, and it's just not quite the same. But as drivens, that really feel that sense of freedom, something we truly crave.
There's so many things I've really come to love about you, Doug. But one of the things I love about you is that you're about as vulnerable and open and honest of a person that I've ever met.
Wow.
You just open up is exactly what's happening. And I wonder, as a result of your practice, is this what has come for you? That you have no suit of armor up?
Oh, that is, yeah, it's an interesting, when you don't have to be scared of your own reactions in your body. Why would I care about your reactions to my reactions in my body? Right? I work my ass off to not worry about what I think. Why am I worried about what you think? And so, that and the punchline to all of it is vulnerability is the only thing that works. Because human connection is what heals trauma is two people sharing their pain.
Yeah.
And pain is love. That's the other message I have to this world. All pain is love. There's only two things in this world: fear and love. And in the present moment, I pull in the driveway and my kids are dead, and yellow tape across. What would happen to my physical body? I would be crushed, and my stomach would completely turn inside out. I would probably throw up my liver. My heart would go into a million pieces. Why? Because I love them. I pull in the driveway and they're not dead, and they got shit everywhere, and I can feel that warmth. I cut myself, and that hurts because it's separating me from life. Why? Because I love life. My favorite names for God is life, and I love life. That's what we're supposed to do here, is love life. But I'm not scared of what's happening in my body. And so being able to demonstrate that and just be spontaneous. You can't be spontaneous. You are.
Yes.
Really
You exhibited that in a talk that you gave that I went to. And you lost track of time.
Yeah,
And you were just,
that I put that up as that launched my YouTube channel.
it did.
That
Is it up there?
It's up there. You guys
Please go watch that. And just let me say this real quick, but then remark to, or, let me know what you're thinking. But you paused a couple of different times during that talk, and you said things, you recognize your body like in the middle of it. You said, like, I'm sweating. or I can't remember specifically what you said, but I just thought, wow. And you were just going, and I thought, Doug is in another stratosphere right now. What is happening? Like, in a beautiful
It was
way.
one of the most reparative experiences I've ever had. So I give a primer on the, go to my YouTube channel and watch it. So what happened was it's a 10-minute talk, part of Genius Network, and it's a gong show, so it's supposed to stop at 10 minutes. I was sitting on the sidelines with 2 10-minute talks before me, not listening to the 10-minute talks, rehearsing in my head my talk, looking at the timer. And every time I'd get to a sentence, I'd look at the timer. All right, I know where I'm at. I get up on stage, they changed the freaking timer. So I'm watching, I look at the timer, and it's literally supposed to be 5 minutes and counting down. It said 2 minutes and 50, it said 2:15, 02:15. And I went, what? And then I said, man, I lost reality. I had a psychotic break.
Yeah.
The only thing I could trust in the room was the love that I was feeling from everybody. And so that energetic, sense of containment, of just really feeling, this sense of, you guys really are supporting me while I'm completely shitting the bed. And so it was,
You weren't.
yeah, my inner experience of that moment, it was one of the most horrific inner experiences I've ever had, on the edge of panic. And I couldn't trust reality. I couldn't trust the timer. I couldn't trust the room. But I could trust the emotion in the room. And so it was a remarkably reparative, meaning that, every time I get on stage now, it's still really, I can trust that energetic connection of the room, and it frees me to be, just raw.
Yeah.
So
It was so great. Everybody was hanging on your every word. That was the thing. It was really an amazing talk.
amazing.
So please,
Shit yourself. What comes out of your mouth?
what's your YouTube channel? How could people find that?
It is I Am Driven. Yeah, just everything about me is IamDriven.com.
I Am Driven. Okay. So that's a good way for us to end, because I know you have a hard stop. So the best way to find everything about Dr. Doug Brackman is
IamDriven.com. Yeah, that gets me. Yeah, it gets the shooting retreats and my meditation courses and the next book launches. I've got a couple new titles coming out in the next 6 months, and then YouTube channel literally just launched this past week, so this is perfect timing. Yeah, you want to see me losing literally in a psychotic break. It was wild. Should make some good watching.
I had a different perspective on it than you did. I thought it was beautiful. Every moment of it. Absolutely real. So real.
Vulnerability is, that's what we're doing here with each other.
Yeah.
If you don't have that, you got nothing.
Yeah, that's right. That's the connection. And that's why I love you so much, Doug.
I love you too, Rob. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Thank you for doing this and coming on the Shed and Shine podcast. I appreciate you so much. Looking forward to catching up again really soon.
Yeah, we will. Let's go hang.
All right, my man. Take care.
Thank you for listening in today. We truly appreciate you taking the time to spend with us, and please tune in for the next episode. Until then, if you'd like to see where you are on your true self journey, go to shedandshinepodcast.com to take the true self assessment and receive personalized guidance. If you're all ready to begin your inner world journey with Rob and myself, please join us for the next round of the 10 Disciplines group coaching program. We wish you all the best in freeing your true self. Stay focused, and much love.